Hey everybody, it's Andrew Martin coming to you on Tuesday, June 2nd with a new video. Happy June. I don't know about you, but I can't believe that it's June. This year is halfway over. And what a year it's been so far. I mean, talk about a wild freaking ride, man. I mean, it's so strange. Like the beginning of the year seems like it was like a lifetime ago. I can't even really even comprehend where I was and what I was doing and what was going on in my life at the beginning of this year. And now here we are in June, and it's still anybody's guess as to what's next. I know that we are all in the midst of a huge shift of awareness right now, whether that's a shift to a new level of awareness for those of us that have been walking this path consciously for some time, whether it is a shift to awareness that is just beginning to occur consciously for people as they're beginning to wake up, and just really starting to kind of open their eyes to this new reality and the new possibilities and the new truth, which is actually the old truth, but it feels new because, for many of us, we've just now begun to remember it. And man, full disclosure, the lesson that I want to share with you today is about existing in the void and embracing the void and becoming comfortable with the void. And it's just so timely for me right now because I am literally in the midst of embracing and embodying and living this teaching and this truth myself, which I'll get to in a minute. But this came to me a couple of weeks ago through a channeling session with Amar. And it's interesting because generally in channeling sessions, I don't really remember much of it. I don't pick up on much of any of it because it literally is a real-time, in-the-moment stream of consciousness coming through. And it's like in one ear and out the other as I'm delivering the information or letting the information come through. And so I don't remember a lot of it, and I don't withhold or I don't retain a lot of it. But every once in a while, I will get a nugget of truth and a teaching that ends up being relevant not only to myself, but to a lot of other people. And it's always very interesting to me how these teachings come through in a moment that's very pure and very, very crystalline, and the idea and the concept is very clear. And then it's like the next 5 or 6 people that I have readings with or, conversations with friends, this is the teaching that seems to be relevant and applicable to all of them. And then it's interesting because usually I get the teaching and my own experience and my own awareness, and then I share it with other people. But this time it's been the opposite. I got the teaching a couple of weeks ago, and I remember thinking like, oh, well, that's kind of weird that I have this, this teaching that I've ended up sharing with so many other people, and it hasn't really been relevant to me. And I thought, well, maybe this one isn't about me, or maybe this one doesn't pertain to me. I was wrong. This one absolutely pertains to me. And for me, this is a big one, man. I'm not lying. Like getting comfortable in the void, getting comfortable with the unknown, getting comfortable with creating in the moment, getting comfortable with not having the plan laid out in its entirety and really only getting one puzzle piece at a time, one breadcrumb at a time. They're dealing the deck one card at a time, really is what it feels like right now. And in many ways, that's very exciting and very liberating and super, super thrilling. But at this, for someone like myself, who's a recovering control freak and type A personality, oh my God, this is terrifying and it's making me crazy. I'm not going to lie. So anyway, the way it came to me is I was doing a channeling session with Amar for this woman, and she was asking about relationship. And she was single and wondering why she didn't have a boyfriend and when that was going to happen and if it was going to happen for her. And really the teaching that came through was, do not let the absence of what you want become evidence that you cannot have it, or that you're not worthy of it, or that you don't deserve it, or that it's impossible, or that it's never going to be here. Because in order for us to receive something and in order for something to manifest in our reality, there has to be space for it. And so often we get so clenched tightly on our vision of what we want and what we expect. And we're really just, I've been that 38 Special song, Hold On Loosely, has been running through my mind like pretty much every day for the past few weeks. And that's really what it is. It's like when we're so clenched onto, this is what I want, this is how I want it, and I'll only be happy if I get it this way. That is like a death grip on what we desire. And there's no room for anything to show up. And so when we relax and when we get comfortable, living in the absence of what we desire, that's when we begin to create space for it to show up. That's when we begin to allow it to begin to grow. It's like if you want to plant a garden and you have a plot of land that's covered with all this shit and all this stuff, nothing can grow there. You've got to clear it out. You've got to create space. You've got to create the void. And that means a million different things. That means unlearning old patterns, old beliefs, letting go of old ideas, any, expectations from others, or, stuff that people have hung on us in an attempt to tell us how to live our lives, or expectations from parents, family, religion, whatever. Letting go of all that stuff, letting go of old beliefs, limiting false ideas that keep us locked in a pattern of lack or unhappiness. It is emptying ourselves out of, the ego mind and the noise and the clutter of the ego. And it is really just allowing there to be a space for what we want to show up. There's that saying, nature abhors a vacuum, and it does. And what's interesting is when we have a vacuum in our life, one of two things happens. Either the mind freaks out and wants to start throwing all this shit in it, or we allow it and learn how to live with the void, and that creates a space for divine intervention, for assistance and help from our our light team and our guides, for miracles to occur, for what we desire to show up. And so it really is about allowing ourselves to expand into the lack of what we have, accepting the lack of what we have as evidence that there's still room for it to show up. Also trusting that if we have a desire, generally it's because on some level it already exists. And so the desire that we're feeling is really the reality of that manifesting calling to us and saying, hey, open up, relax, unclench, loosen up, and let some breathing room in and create a space for me to show up. Whether that's a relationship, job, money, whatever, whatever you desire. If it doesn't exist, the first step to receiving it is getting comfortable with it not existing right now. Because when the mind wants to fill, nature abhors a vacuum. And so when the mind wants to fill it up with stuff, because the mind doesn't care what goes in there, it just doesn't want an empty space. It's like you have an empty apartment or an empty house, and rather than taking your time and meticulously and deliberately and purposely shopping for the right things, the things that you love, the things that look good, that make you feel good, that are comfortable, that really create and bring to life the vision that you have for your living space, you just say, whatever, I just fucking fill it up with something. And you go to, crappy furniture stores, Salvation Army, stuff you find on the street, anything, just put something in there. It's, it's making me nervous. I'm having a panic attack that I have this empty house and no furniture. That's what the mind will do, is the mind doesn't really care what goes in there. So it may fill it up, let's say it's a boyfriend or a girlfriend, a partner that you're looking for. It may just accept the first person that kind of comes along and sort of fits the bill. Whether or not it's an actual match and a good partner for you is irrelevant to the mind and the ego. Or it may fill up the lack of a partner or a relationship in your life with feelings and with bullshit stories that you're not good enough, you can't have it, you don't deserve it, you did something wrong. You need to be perfect, you need to be happy, you need to be skinnier, you need to be more muscular, you need to be richer, you need to have this. It's going to give you all these bullshit reasons. So, and that is clutter in itself. It may not be physical clutter, but energetic clutter and physical clutter are ultimately the same thing. So, living in the void is the trick. And I'm not going to lie, it's terrifying for a lot of us, for myself included. I have been single for a long damn time. I have dated off and on, but my last serious relationship was almost 20 years ago. Jesus, I can't believe that. It was like 1996 or 97. And since then I've had I've met men that I've dated, for several months at a time here and there or casually, but nothing ever that was like a long-term committed relationship. And, for most of the last 15, 20, God, I just hate saying 20 years. See, that's the ego right there. Just me even saying I've been single for 20 years, the ego automatically comes in and says, oh, that you should be embarrassed about that. You don't deserve it. You can't have it. It's never going to happen. The kind of guy that you want doesn't exist, yada, yada, yada. Bullshit. I know that to be true. But, so I've dated men here and there off and on, but recently, and a lot of the reason that I was single was part of it was job, part of it was career, part of it was I didn't want to be in a relationship. I was just having a lot of fun. a lot of fun. But recently, I would say in the past year-ish, I have really started to reawaken to the possibility of really wanting to be in a relationship. And the work that I have done internally, emptying myself out, creating that void, getting rid of all those old beliefs and false ideas and old shit and stuff that didn't belong to me, really aligning myself with the truth of who I am and making my alignment with that truth the most important thing in my life. And making that my number one priority, that my relationship with myself is the most important relationship that I have, because that relationship serves all else. My family, my friends, my clients, my, potential husband, all of that is best served by the most thriving, most aligned, most integral version of myself that I can be. So my relationship with myself is the most important thing. So having kind of gotten that to a point where I can understand it and I can function within that and I can manage it and balance it, and it's viable and sustainable, that I've started, feeling like, okay, I can date someone. And I dated a few guys here and there, nothing amazing, one kind of tragic story, which was just because the guy was super young and he was super sweet and just, I think was really nervous and just didn't really know how to date. But without going into too much detail, I recently met this guy. We had known each other kind of sort of peripherally at the gym for the past couple of months. And I knew this guy. I was attracted to this guy. I didn't know if he was attracted to me or not. I couldn't really tell. I'm legitimately, honestly saying this, that generally I assume that if I'm attracted to a guy, he's not attracted to me. And that's another thing that I've been dealing with, is unloading these old, self-esteem issues and these old stories that I'm not attractive, that I'm not, dynamic, that I'm not charismatic, that I'm not, boyfriend material. And so anyway, long story short, this dude and I would see each other on Scruff. I have that dating app Scruff on my phone, which I recently re-put on my phone because I thought, well, I don't really go out to the bars. I don't really, I'm not really super social in the gay world. And where else do I go besides, bars to meet guys? I don't really know. And so I said, okay, well, I'm going to put Scruff back on my phone. And I'm going to set it with the intention that, it's not about hookups, no judgment. I'm certainly not judging those people who want to have casual sex, because I love sex too, but it's not my intention for Scruff this go around. So I said, okay, I'm going to put it back on my phone. I'm going to allow myself to meet new people with no expectations. I just want to meet new gay men, and come what may. So anyway, this dude from the gym, I saw him on Scruff. We chatted every once in a while. We would just sort of have like, hey, how are you? I see you at the gym, blah, blah, blah. And nothing really ever happened. Well, recently, a couple of weeks ago, we ended up connecting, and I went to his work and hung out for a bit one night. And he and I have hung out a couple of times since then. And the connection is fucking crazy. If I can tell, it's insane. I'm hand to God, not being dramatic about this. I have never felt this way about someone. Like, I can't stop thinking about him. It's crazy. And it sends me into a panic because, and here's the fucking kicker. Talk about living in the void. He's leaving town, literally in 2 days. He is leaving town for the rest of the year. And he won't be here. How much more of, a challenge could this be? So we both acknowledged that we are both like, this connection's weird, it's intense, it's crazy, what is up? Like, both of us are sort of gobsmacked about our level of attraction and interest in one another. And also how the timing really sucks. I have gotten to this point in my life, and I'm kind of one that I just sort of go with the flow. Like, if I'm not one really to question the timing of things, and I'm not really one to go into resistance in how life unfolds, but the timing sucks, I'm not going to lie. So talk about living in the void. I have no idea. I have no idea what to do with this. And my incessant, cancel, clear, delete, my former need to control and to force and manipulate and coerce and, by my will try to, cram life into the shape and the form that I want it to be, rather than relax and allow to just be in the moment and say, I really like being with this guy, and the time that we have together, I'm going to enjoy it and I'm going to allow it. And I'm not going to start to tell that, and the fact that he's leaving in a couple of days and won't be, I very well may not see him for the rest of the year, is what it is. And there's nothing I can do about that. There's nothing I can do about that. And it makes my inner control freak flip the fuck out. And my ego, in its attempt to fill the void and find an explanation and put a cap on it, make it black or white, tie it up in a pretty bow and say it's done. My ego doesn't care. My ego has gone from wanting to just say fuck it and never talk to him again. My ego has, wanted me to become this like crazy, like possessive, person to try to latch onto it and force it to be something, like microwave dinner version of just try to force it to be something that it's not, rather than just allow it to be that I met this cool guy, we have an amazing connection, and it is what it is, and come what may. Who knows? I don't know what it's going to be. My point is that the void is very uncomfortable. The void is really fucking painful. The void is going to make your ego flip the fuck out. Because it's the gray area. It's the indefinable. It's the no guarantees. And it is also the genesis of creation. The void is the 0 point field. The void is where all creation begins. Accepting the lack of what we desire, accepting what we get as it shows up and how it shows up, not accepting it for its potential, for its possibility, for its maybe, accepting it as it is, and not using whatever shows up as an excuse to convince ourselves of our unworthiness or our unhappiness or discontentedness. I could very well use this example with this dude who shall remain nameless. I'm going to protect his identity. I don't think he's watching this anyway. But if you are, I love you. No, I'm just kidding. Not letting the shitty situation and the crappy circumstances, timing-wise, not letting that be a reason for me to tell the same old sob story of, I can't have a man, I'm going to be single forever. No, fuck that. I didn't take a vow of chastity when I entered this lifetime. And the beauty in this has been that I really am reminded that, wow, I really am super excited and ready to date someone and to build something. And the kind of guy that I really would love to be with exists because I've met him. And I don't know what the future holds, and I can't know. And the only option I have is to hold on loosely, to surrender, and just say, it is what it is. Thank you for this opportunity for me to challenge these old ideas and patterns and thoughts and beliefs that I've had. Thank you for this opportunity to learn how to live in the void and to learn how to get comfortable with discomfort, to learn to allow what wants to show up in my life to show up, and then I get to make the decision what I do about it, to learn that my internal vibration really does dictate what comes to me. And once I get in a role and the momentum of going to a really good place, then really good things start to show up. And I just use whatever shows up as the catalyst to get me to the next place and just accept it. And just remember that just because what I want isn't here yet doesn't mean that it's not coming. And a death grip isn't going to bring it any faster. Trying to control and manipulate and make what is here into something else or something that it's not isn't going to make it come any faster. And not using the lack of it as a reason to beat myself up, tell myself that I don't deserve it or that I can't have it or that it doesn't exist. And to just get comfortable with being uncomfortable. That's one thing that I've been saying a lot lately. Is one of the most powerful things that I have learned on this spiritual journey, and one of the most powerful things that I think most of us learn at some point, is that one of the biggest lessons that a spiritual path and surrender and faith and trust in our truth and the power that we have is to just get comfortable in the not knowing, to get comfortable in the trust, to get comfortable that you're not going to see the whole plan right away, that sometimes it is going to be a breadcrumb at a time. And yes, there will be times when we will see everything in sort of a flash or a vision, but it's about focusing on the vision and holding the vision as our expectation, and still allowing there to be room for something better to show up, for something more mind-blowing to show up, and trusting that when we allow the void and focus on what we want and what we know is possible, rather than focusing on the fact that it's not here yet, that we create space for it to show up. So who knows? Who knows where this is going to end? I mean, you know, of course, my fantasy, my little 16-year-old romantic rom-com self wants to just sell everything I own and pack a bag and go with this guy and ride off into the sunset. But I don't think that's realistic, because I've got a lot of stuff going on in my own life, and life is really good. And there's a lot of stuff that requires my time and attention that I want to give my time and attention to. And honestly, if he were here, it would be really easy for me to distract myself from the things that I really am thriving from right now, and the things that are really important and meaningful in my life, and the things that are the work that I came here to do in this lifetime. So that's another blessing, is that I know myself. And when I'm into someone, I go full force. So it's a good thing that he's not going to be around. But I don't have to like it. So that's it. Get comfortable with the void, bitch, because it ain't going anywhere. As always, you can go to my website, go to my Facebook page, follow me there, check me out. Let me help you if I can. Reminder to you that all of my services are done on a donation basis at this point. So don't let money be the reason you can't work with me. I really, really can help, and I would love to. As always, thank you for watching. I'm single. I'm ready to mingle. If anyone out there, whatever. I love you. Thanks for watching. Bye.